Hey, welcome to this episode of The Complete Advisor. As always, I am thrilled that you're here. Today's episode, we are going to talk about one of the greatest wealth transfer opportunities that's out there in the United States marketplace at the moment. And I'm talking about small business owners. But here's the thing about it. It is a very fragile opportunity because the people in the mix, the small business owners, they're not prepared, not even in the least. They don't even know what they don't know. On today's episode, I've got Scott Bushkie and Kelly Carter. We're going to talk about the scope of this market. We're going to talk about potential opportunities and what you can do about it, maybe where your head needs to be at in relation to it. With that being said, let me know what you think. I'd love to hear your comments afterwards. But let's go ahead and let's jump into this conversation with Scott and Kelly. For most business owners, 80 to 90% of their financial net worth is locked up in their business. And as financial advisors, the first thing that should pop into your head is, wow, that's the classic definition of concentration risk.
Right. Absolutely.
And the other part, though, that where things really get staggering is that at some point, everyone will exit their business. And whether they want to or not.
Correct.
And 50% of the time it's due to one of the 5 Ds as you define in the book. Death, divorce, disability, distress, disagreement. But here's the thing that just blows my mind is the fact that we have all these business owners and eventually they're going to want to leave. And it's estimated that 20 to 30% of business owners that take their business to market, they decide that they're going to sell, that only 20 to 30% of those businesses actually sell. That means 80% of the time it doesn't happen. And if it doesn't happen, maybe it goes on to the kids. Otherwise it just dies. Mm-hmm. So today, what I want to talk about on our podcast, on the episode, is the book, the program that you've put together. Kelly, how you're working with business owners. But the book that you put together, Scott, Finish Strong, Sell Your Business on Your Terms. Let me have you introduce yourself first. So, and I'm going to start left to right. So, Scott Bushkie, who are you?
Managing partner, founder of Cornerstone Business Services, author of Finish Strong, and also founder of the Cornerstone International Alliance.
Nice. Okay, and so joining you, and I'm going to, you left some stuff out, so we're going to come back.
You did that on purpose.
That's nice tease. You teased the teaser. And so, Kelly Carter. So, Kelly, how do you fit in this? And tell us about you for the audience that has never met you.
Well, founder and CEO of Beacon Retirement Planning Group, fiduciary, financial planner, retirement planner, income specialist. And Scott and I met several years ago through Doug Orchard, who had done a phenomenal movie called The Baby Boomer Dilemma.
It's a good movie.
That is a documentary around the crisis that's happening in this country. You factor in Social Security, you factor in the debt, all the other things that are going on. That movie was designed to educate, but what we found as we showed this movie is it was scaring the hell out of people.
Educate and motivate.
Educate and motivate, but it also is right in your face that, hey, you need to do something. Fast forward, while that was being done, Scott and Doug had started the project on a movie called M&A, and that movie was designed about the other piece of what you just talked about. Those numbers, when you break down that $10 trillion in assets, 20 million businesses, most of them owned by baby boomers. 81% of those people are wanting to or going to leave that business in 10 years. Less than 20% have a plan. Hence the reason that $8 trillion of value is going to disappear with no planning, and that's where Scott and I come together.
All right, so I want to flesh just a couple things out that you said there. So Doug Orchard is probably one of the most commercially successful documentary filmmakers out there, and he's done an amazing job. The movie you referenced, Baby Boomer Dilemma, one of the things that Doug does in his movies is he'll bring in the experts and have the facts, but then he'll also add in a compelling narrative to keep to make it all make sense.
Right, that's correct.
And so the business owner side, so he made that movie, which is a fantastic movie, and honestly, it does scare. It scares the hell out of you.
It does.
Yeah, when I was at the premiere, when you premiered it out in Colorado, I was sitting there and I'm like, holy smokes! I don't fall. I'm Gen X, but it's like, golly, you know, giddy up.
The 2 words I tell most people is wake up.
Yep.
Doing nothing is still a plan, but that's not the best plan.
Yeah. And so now we go over, and when I said you didn't tell enough about yourself, you've been working with business owners for 25
years.
Right. And so for me, when I read the book and I looked at this program, my dad owned a series of small businesses, a hardware store, a little drugstore, hardware store, grocery store. I mean, he's done these things. And I can think of the things that if he would have read this book that he would have done differently. And I also think about business owners, and the thing that happens to business owners, you guys are business owners, is you put yourself last. You're the first one there in the morning. You're the last one there at night. And if something hits the fan, you're the one that people call and you have to get up out of bed. And whatever your business is, whether you're going to a job site, whether you're going down to the building, you're that person. And so it's crazy that old adage, the cobbler's kids doesn't have shoes. You put yourself last, you look at these numbers to run and operate the business, ROI, all these different things. But there's one thing that a business owner doesn't plan, probably because it's your heart and soul. I mean, this is your identity. You don't plan on ever really exiting. And that is such a blind spot.
Right.
And so you put this program together, go from there.
Yeah, so stepping back with Cornerstone, what we are is an investment bank or M&A advisory firm. We work all over the country, based out of Wisconsin. And doing this for 25 years, we just saw that business owners continue to make the same mistakes that they've made 20, 30, 40 years ago.
Sure.
And they don't know what they don't know. So what we've tried to do is try to go to the trusted advisor, which is many times the CPA, the financial advisor, the attorney, and give them, and we found that they're not comfortable having that conversation because they don't know what to say or how to say it, or if they do say yes, then what do they do next? So what we did is we put together the book and the workbook as a tool to start that conversation, as an easy way to start the conversation with their client so they can help them think about, when am I going to get out? What are all my options? What are the pros and cons of my options? How much is my business worth? Only 15% of businesses have had a valuation done in the last 2 years.
That's crazy.
Even though it's the largest, like you said, 80, 90% of my net worth is tied up in this business. I have no idea what it's worth. And most people, there's either two thoughts. Either I don't think it's worth anything and it's worth something, or I think it's worth something up here and it's worth a lot less. And more people are in the camp of, I think it's up here. It's like, again, most clients talk about giving up their kid for adoption. So, our kids are priceless, right? So it's a high value. Yeah. And what we don't want is for them to get to the closing table only to find out that after they're burnt out and they've spent all the energy that, boy, I thought it was 30 million and it's only 10. Yeah. And so that's where this process helps them start that process earlier. And what we found is that the more people plan sooner and the more they build a team around them, the stats or the ratios go significantly up, where like the last 3 years, our closing ratio when we built this team is 85% closing ratio with our clients and having premiums of over 25% of what other companies are selling for because we've built a team around them and helped them start to plan sooner.
Well, and I think that's also a product, Scott, of the fact that we are going to tell that business owner and their advisor, right, that CPA who brings that client to us, we're going to tell them what they need to hear versus what they want to hear.
Correct.
And so when you vet them and give them the resources to understand what's actually happening, and bringing that, and I hate to use the word novice, but CPAs are very focused in what they do, and if they're not an
they're good at it,
and they're great at it. So if you're a CPA or an attorney in this world that has business clients that are coming to you, a lot of times you don't know where to turn. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where the CapX program, which you want to talk a little bit about that, is so important.
So I have purposely, because we've hung out now for a couple days here, but I have purposely not asked you what CapX is because I wanted to learn at the same time the audience did.
On the fly?
On the fly.
I love it.
This is a Larry King style.
There we go.
I want to learn right at the moment.
Dennis, I'm not going to cry.
Don't cry. I'm not going to do it.
All right. So CapX program we put together. So we've been working for decades informally with CPA or that trusted advisor and working with them. But we wanted to put together a formalized plan so they could have more education, have more tools, more resources, more market materials that they feel comfortable having that conversation, that they can market themselves. Hey, we specialize with business owners to help them through this sale process and then get those assets under management at the end of the day. Yeah. So the CapX is the Cornerstone Advisory Partners Exit Program. And it's catered to a formal program for that trusted advisor. And what we do is, like I said, give them the tools, the resources, the marketing, the education, not just once, but consistently. We're basically almost part of their company, a resource of their company. And most of the people that we work with want those assets under management. That's where, everybody's going to, they want to get those assets under management or different program, be able to take those wholesale proceeds and do something with that. And what we found out talking with CPAs or financial advisors, whoever's managing that money or wants to manage the money after the sale, is that we've talked to people all over the country, and they've said, I had $500,000 with Kelly, and I knew that he had this $20 million company that someday he was going to sell. So I took him out for lunch, took him golfing, and 10 years went past, 12 years went past, and finally I see he sold his company, and I'm excited, like, oh, finally, this payday, because I got $500,000 with him because he's got all his money tied up in his company, like most business owners do. And I waited, the deal closed last week, so I know he's busy with everything, so I don't want to call him right away. And 2 weeks go by, a month goes by, and all of a sudden, 5 weeks go by and I don't hear from him. And I finally call, hey, Kelly, I heard you sold your company. We should sit down and talk about how to invest your money. But I've done nothing to help him along the way. And he goes, yeah, Scott, I will, but so-and-so big firm called, and this firm called, and they said, they've got this specialized plan for big chunks of money like this with business owners. And Kelly, I only get one chance to do this, and I've got to listen to them. My wife said I got to listen to them. So we'll sit down, but we'll see where it goes. And click. And Kelly went from a 10, 12-year relationship at the front of the line to the back of the line and losing those funds. So with our process, we make sure that never happens.
I actually think the story goes differently.
Okay.
I think, here's Kelly, fact check me on this. I think the story probably goes more like this. Business sells, I'm not going to call him. And I call him up and I say, hey, Kelly, we should get together. I know you just sold the business, didn't want to bother you, but see what we're going to do with all those funds.
Congratulations.
And what Kelly probably says to me is like, oh, hey, you know what? I'm glad you called. We're going to be moving that $500,000 over to that too. To the bigger firm, because they knew what to do when you didn't.
Right.
Yeah. And I think that's where the CapEx program is very unique. It's one of a kind. There's nothing else out there. We've done the research, and with Scott's background and expertise in Cornerstone business, and our expertise as fiduciaries, and also some proprietary tax planning strategies that we have that the big firms don't have access to. Right? Because a lot of times what's happening is we've run across scenarios where the CPA who's not versed in this model tells the client, well, you got one choice. Yeah. You got to pay the tax. And then the big firms are going, just pay the tax and we're going to invest the money and we're going to make that back. Well, think of it this way. If you sold your company last year in 2021 for $20 million and you paid $5 million in taxes, you got $15 million. You go to the big firm who does their fancy thing they sold you on, and the market's down 20%, you just lost another $3 million.
Bam.
What the hell are we doing?
Yep.
Right? And there are solutions out there. So when we teach the CapEx advisors, the CPAs, the attorneys, other firms that want to be a part of this program, that we can show you solutions and be a resource. We're a value add. We're not taking business away from you. Correct. We're enhancing your business. Yeah. I think that's a big deal.
Well, and I think you're absolutely right. And that's where we work with them, because with our Assurance 360 process, it's part of our selling process, our structured sale. Instead of waiting till the end when they take a look at it, it's before we ever go to market, we're doing that estimate of value. Again, we do that for clients all over the country for only $3,000 instead of spending 10 or 20 grand to get a valuation done, to really understand what's the market analysis for that company. And then right after that, that's when they meet on the taxes, because, okay, if I got $20 million, who cares? What am I going to net out of that? And then, whatever, let's say it's $12 million, but then what does that mean for my family? What's my lifestyle number? And by doing those three things early, now that CPA is involved early, the financial advisors in early. So now as we go through our process, they have a seat at the table all the way through. So when that letter of intent gets signed, you've got a 60, 90, 120-day head start to really take the plan that's been designed, dot the I's, cross the T's, get everything done. So now when that phone call, now the company's sold, when that call comes in and goes, hey, big firm, hey, I heard you sold a company, Kelly, we should sit down and talk about that $20 million. It's like, oh no, Scott's already, helped me through this process. He started this conversation early. He brought a team around me. We've already got the plan in place. We've already funded it. Thank you. And now I've got that $15 million invested for the next 25, 30 years.
That's right.
That's the crux of this plan, is giving the trusted advisor the information, the education, the tools, and the marketing resources to really help that business owner, but also help themselves grow their business substantially. Because what we found is that how are you going to get your next 100 million of assets under management? Are you going to do it the traditional way of a $500,000 a person? So you got to get 200,000 or 200 people to talk to, sign up, onboard, and talk to every year, or can you do that with 10 to 20 people?
Right.
And that's our goal, is to help you get your next 100 million with 10 to 20 clients versus 200 clients.
Well, and I think the other thing is that it allows us to go to those CPA firms that work with business owners, and for them to expand their practice and their operation without having to go retool. They don't have to learn this business. They've got a team of experts that are an extension of them.
Yeah.
So again, that's what CapEx allows us to do, is to white label those conversations so that, Dennis CPA firm now can offer this. So when that client comes knocking, we have a team of experts. Let's get on the phone and let's start the valuation conversation.
And the one other thing that I think is good, especially for the CPAs that you bring up, is that when we do that estimate of value, if we should do it as soon as possible. Most times that net number is below what the lifestyle number is. So there's things that they need to do. So what we've done is
define those real quick.
The net number. The net number is after your sale price of the business. After paying taxes and debt and fees. What are you left over with? What's the number left over? That's the net number. And the lifestyle number, that is what do you need to live your ideal lifestyle? So when you sit down with your financial advisor and here's all my assets, here's all my debts, here's the lifestyle I want to live, here's how much I want each year. What's that wealth gap? What is the wealth gap that you don't have yet? Because 60% of studies have shown that 60% of business owners need to sell their company in order to live their ideal lifestyle. So that's what. So once they understand those two numbers, but most times the net number might be lower than the lifestyle number. So that way they have to either look at how they can minimize taxes, or in a lot of cases, the CPA then could come in as a trusted advisor, because in our estimate of value, we'll point to 2 or 3 areas that the business owner could do to enhance that value. And we don't we identify, but we don't do the value enhancement work. And that's where a lot of CPA firms are trying to increase their advisory services. So we can feed a lot of advisory services. We also talk about those last 3 years before a sale to try to get audited financial statements versus compiled or reviewed. Or, there's other things that they can do. So there's a lot of extra work that they can do to help that client prepare that the CPA otherwise would miss on.
That's right.
So before, I'm going to pull you in on taxes here in a second. The thing that I love about the book and the program that I don't want to get lost, because I don't want someone to look at this and think like, well, it's only for that business owner that's going to sell and walk away.
Sure.
And one thing you make, a point you hit in the book, in fact, I think there's doggone a whole chapter on there, is that you have more options.
Yes.
But what that means to the non-business owner, the person working with that business owner, is you become exponentially more valuable, because it's not just about the guy who's had enough of his business and wants to sell out and leave. You've got all those different variations, the ability to work with maybe the next generation of the family, or and you make this point in here, if that business owner wants to keep a toe in the water, but maybe if you watch Shark Tank, they don't have the capital, so they're selling equity to build up that capital to take the business, but they want to stay in it. And I think that opens up more, that just creates more and more value if I'm the one at the center bringing this information to those clients.
And that's what we're trying to do, is have that trusted advisor be that nexus where all questions go to them, and then they bring the right people to the team. And that's why we're setting up a team around them. And you're right, there's more money than there ever has been in the country that's looking to buy companies. There's more options than there ever has been. So it is a great time, whether you're selling now or 10 years from now, just to start to think about what are my options and what's important to me, because what's important to you, the different options do you want to sell to your kids, to the management team, to a private equity group. Do you want to sell, like you said, 70% of the company now and the other 30% 5 years from now or 7 years from now? There's just, an ESOP, there's endless
so many
opportunities.
ways. When I think one of the scary numbers that you mentioned, Scott, a few minutes ago, is when you look at those 20 million businesses that are owned by the baby boomers, 60% of them need to sell the company to get their lifestyle number. However, only 20% of these businesses are going to sell. So what does that tell you? It tells you that, as that trusted advisor, whether you're a CPA or attorney or another advisor, what we're bringing to the table is the ability to have that conversation, because if they can't sell the business, they're going to work there, and they're going out 100% one of two ways, vertically or horizontally. We've had this conversation. So again, the ability to use the tools we have, which is the workbook starting the conversation, the retirement income lifestyle awareness, the RISA as we call it, right? What we have tools to identify what is your income style, what is it that you need to match that lifestyle number. And it's not necessarily the biggest offer on the table. It's the best structure. And again, our expertise in the CapEx program is to be that value proposition, to provide that solution without that individual advisor who's bringing that client to the table becoming an expert, because it's not going to happen.
Yep. Yeah, you mentioned RISA, shameless plug, future plug, actually. I haven't dropped the episode, but we had the Wade Pfau in here walking through how we created the RISA. Let's pivot, just a half pivot here, and the movie. Let's talk a little bit about the movie M&A that Doug Orchard put together, but that you both have a hand in. How did that come to be? I'm assuming this is the chicken and the movie is the egg.
Yeah, so
that's a good point.
I met Doug about 5 years ago at another conference when I was speaking at, and he was showing one of his films at that time, one of his first financial films. And we just started talking about the stats of what's going on in M&A and how some people can, a few do it right, but so many people do it wrong. There's good buyers, there's bad character, there's good and bad characters and everything, but especially when you're talking high stakes and buying companies. And so many buyers are just really getting very good deals or stealing companies, from these entrepreneurs that are very, very smart at running their business, but they're very, very unsophisticated in selling their company. Because again, if you do only something once in your life, how good are you going to do that? It's like going golfing. Say, no, I've never picked up golf clubs before, but let me go out and play the Club Pro and see what happens.
I have a different analogy or a different experience. I helped if you've ever had to put a wax ring, if your kids ever flushed something down the toilet and you had to take the toilet off. You guys never thought we'd talk about this on the podcast. And you have to get in there, and then you have to redo the wax seal. Mm-hmm. The first time I did that with my father-in-law, I think it took us about 4 beers and a whole afternoon. And after I got done, I thought, if I had to do that again, and then I had to do it one other time, half hour.
Well, not only that, but what happens if you do it wrong and all of a sudden you just caused a flood and now you got $10,000 worth of damage? Happens all the time.
Well, and that goes back to the film. So when we started talking, we're like, look, you mentioned the stats and they're not great. It's like, how can we increase those numbers? So of those, maybe instead of 20% sell, maybe it's 70% sell or 80%. So by educating the business owner, educating the trusted advisors, we're hoping that we can switch those numbers around. And the two biggest points of the film are you need to start planning sooner, like we've talked about. Mm-hmm. That's worth using tools like the Finish Strong book and workbook. But also you need to build a team of experts around you. That doesn't mean fire your attorney, fire your accountant, and everybody else. It means and maybe they are the right person. Sometimes they are, but in a lot of cases, and I grew up in a town of 3,200 people in small town Wisconsin. You had to be a generalist to survive.
You had to be all things to all people.
So in a lot of cases, we can bring in the right experts to just help for that piece. It's just like, I liken it to you go to your general doctor to get your physical. Well, I've had 30 years of physical with the same doctor. He knows me better than anybody else. But if I all of a sudden start having headaches and I've got a brain tumor, just because he's a doctor doesn't mean he's going to be doing the surgery.
He's not doctor.
I'm going to my brain surgeon and then going back to my doctor for follow-ups after that. And it's the same thing with a sale, is that you only get one chance to do it as a business owner, and it's your largest financial transaction, and you can either do it right and really set yourself up and your family, in your community, and your employees for success, or you could do it wrong, which many do, and because of the emotions, because of trying to do it myself and I don't know what I don't know, or whatever else it might be, and all of a sudden you get 10 cents on the dollar if you can sell it at all, or the value's gone, the legacy's gone, the employees lose their job, and you've got this 30 years of, oh my gosh, it was amazing, to, what did I just do? My last chapter was this.
Yep, really?
Versus being able to sell it and watch it continue to grow as you exit stage right.
So, Kelly, tell me a little bit. I want to pick your brain here on the 1-2 punch of the movie and the program and the book. The impact that's having. Because sometimes when you tell people, this is what you should do. It's like you should eat a healthy breakfast and you'll 30 minutes of cardio. But if you put it together in an impactful message, and I feel like that the book is great, the movie's great. So that has just got to be a hell of a 1-2 punch, right?
Yeah, and again, it's as business owners, what happens, right? We're all business owners.
Yep.
We tend to get stuck in the day-to-day of our business and not think a little bit forward about ourselves, because as you said, when the fire happens, who do they call? We're the guys and gals rushing in to put out the fire. So if you can invest a couple of hours, in an hour and a half, an hour and 24 minutes to be exact, in the movie, it's going to, because with Scott and myself and other experts that are in the movie, talking about the story, and the story is almost, you could pick it up and put it over here with any different type of business, right? But it's designed to kind of give you that human touch of this is happening, this is how it works, and what can I do to avoid that? And then the book allows you to go through the process of starting the conversation, certain things that Scott says, which we've challenged before about, take a vacation to grow your business, or don't put a price on your business when you go to sell. That's so counterintuitive.
Right.
And I think that the book then allows us to bring that team together for that advisor, that CPA or attorney who's really good at what they do, but they're not. Again, you use the analogy of the doctor, right? Generally, if you like baseball like we do, right? When you see the shortstop on the mound, it's because you're losing 25-0. Right? And he's giving up gopher balls, right? We don't want to bring the shortstop in to close a game when we're ready to go to the World Series. We want to have that team, and that's what Cornerstone Business Services, Cornerstone International Alliance, and Beacon Retirement Planning Group, the book and the movie tie that conversation together to where when the light bulb goes on, what do we do next?
Yeah, so I think it helps them start the conversation with their clients, but also with all the buyers out there and all the money out there right now, business owners are getting all these unsolicited offers.
Yep.
So that should be when they hear that, hey, so and so called me and they're interested in my company. When that trusted advisor hears it, that should be the bells and whistles going off. I need to get Cornerstone involved. I need to get this book in front of them because they know the buyer knows that if as a buyer, if I can get to you before you talk to an investment banker, I'm an advisor, I'm going to get a better deal. But the business owner doesn't know that. They're just going, hey.
Idea. This guy just offered me X dollars for my business.
And I'm really excited. It's like, wow, that's really cool. Someone likes me. Someone wants to buy my company. That's really exciting, but they don't know what they don't know, and they have no idea what that value is. And that's where, like you said, hour and a half with the film, probably 2 to 5 hours with the book. Mm-hmm. You can truly set yourself up to whether, again, you're now or 10 years from now or 5 years from now, just to get an idea and start holistically planning all the different key pieces. Because again, I've talked with business owners, hundreds of them for 25 years, and I understand now how they think, what I thought they thought, where the assumptions were wrong. And we tried to distill that all into a very simple, easy to read book and simple workbook. So with 5 to 7 hours of your life, because I know I'm an entrepreneur and ADD, and you're not going to, and that's why we put the workbook together, quite honestly, because it's like, hey, there's a lot of good ideas in here. Right. I'll work on that tomorrow, and you put the book down. But now it's like read 7 pages, and then go do a little homework assignment, and it's easy to get through it, and it truly helps you think about what makes the most sense for you and your family.
One of the things I really like too is in chapter 8 of the book, you talk about building value in the business, and that's a big area for advisors as well. Yep. I mean, you've seen this a million
Absolutely.
times.
Yeah, I was going to say, and that's what the CapEx program is designed for. Is not only to help their clients successfully sell and build their net worth, but also this is helping the financial advisor build their entity. Because if they're getting chunks of $5, $20, $30 million at a time for a client, and they're getting that assets under management or other programs that you guys have, that's all increasing their value. So it's really a big win for everybody along the way. And that's what we're trying to do, is just create a team where we all can win, but at the end of the day, we're all taking care of that client. Versus somebody we've seen people have alternative motives of, well, geez, if Dennis sells his company, well, then I'm not going to get X fees every year that I get him. So I'm going to tell him something really high, so when those offers come in, that doesn't sell, so I get paid for the next 5 years. Exactly. And it's bringing people together that really want to take care of the client.
Dennis, I think the other thing with CapEx is, and we've been in this business a long time, 30 plus years. It's hard to teach an old dog new tricks. Yeah. And as an advisor, whether you're a CPA or financial advisor, there are barriers to entry. You're not going to learn everything that this gentleman has learned in 25 years.
Well, and you shouldn't, because you should be working on your business.
Exactly. But what CapEx allows them to do is that if they've identified clients in their wheelhouse, we're not coming in to take that client away. We're trying to enhance it and make that client sticky, because the team that we've put together with Beacon Retirement Planning Group and Cornerstone Business Services allows us, again, to be a value add for that CPA firm, that law firm, or an advisor who, pigs get fed and the hogs get slaughtered. And if they're looking at it going, I'm going to keep all that money, I'm going to do this and that, and then all of a sudden they're in the back of the line, would you rather have 50% of 10 million or 100% of nothing?
Yeah, here's how I always think of that one. I always think of, you have situations where it's like, no, this is mine.
It's all mine.
But you know what? If we put our hands together, look at how big that gets.
I like that.
Yeah,
look at that. There you go.
So, one question before we kind of head towards wrap up here is how big of a part are structured products, some of the new products that are coming out, how big are they going to play in this market?
Oh, they're huge. And again, we believe it's a blue ocean because with the relationships that we have exclusivity with the ILSA, all right, which is the index-linked structured settlement annuity. And those tools, we've got some of the top law firms in the country that are providing tax opinions on facts and circumstances for each case. We have the ability to put insurance wrappers around that tax deal. So if, God forbid, the IRS ever wants to come back and say, we want to look at that transaction, we've got an insurance policy that covers the 7 years of that plan. Nice. So all of that expertise is part of what we are going to offer through CapEx with Cornerstone and Beacon Retirement Planning Group. But those structured installment annuity models, those proprietary strategies, allow us to take that net number and say, instead of giving Uncle Sam $3 million right now, why don't we dole it out a little bit at a time over the long term and give you the income first? You're still going to pay the tax. But the net result is we're seeing a 30 to 50% increase in the guaranteed lifetime income of that structured installment sale. Under the tax code 453, that means you leave more money to your family, you have more money to spend for your lifestyle number, whatever it is. And it's a critical part, but we have exclusivity to where it's going to differentiate what we're doing with CapEx.
This is fascinating. I just think back to, I think it was Becky Swansburg from Stonewood.
Yep.
And
we work with Becky all the time.
They have in one of their presentations, they've got that great quote from Judge Learned Hand that says that, the tax code, there's 2 tax codes in America. I'm totally butchering it, but there's 2 tax codes in America. There's the tax code for those that are informed, and there's the one for the uninformed. And when I think about this, when I think of the book you've put together, the process, the workbook, and the work that you're doing, Kelly, with this, I just think that there are those business owners that have their ducks in a row and are prepared. They've got the transition out of their business as tight as they have everything else they're doing with their successful business, and they sell and they maximize and they know what's going on. And then there are those that, I'm just going to sell, and they just first offer. They don't realize the amount of options they have, the structures that they could do, the different type of buyers.
Yeah. Well, and just the number of like we talked about options before, but like with working, when we work through the CapEx program and the Assurance 360 process, we're averaging 5 or 6 offers per client. So not only are we getting those companies sold at a premium, but that buyer, that business owner gets to choose, who's the best fit for me? What's the best structure do I like? Whose culture fits the best? And now they have that peace of mind. They go to bed at night knowing I didn't leave any money on the table. I got to choose who was the best fit, and I got to go out again on my terms. On my terms, the way I wanted to. And if you only have one offer, you're only going to know what that one group was willing to pay. Yeah. And we've had clients lay in bed at night for 2 nights. They've got unsolicited offers and had slept for 48 hours because should I sell, shouldn't I sell? It's a lot of money, but is there more out there? And they'll never know until they put together what we do is we put together the company in the best possible light, do the research, spend maybe 100 or plus hours in investment making, figure out who are the right buyers to contact. The seller gets to sign off on everything so they know exactly what we're saying about their company. We're not missing anything. We know exactly who we're talking to. And then we run our process in 30 to 60 days. We're going to have those multiple offers. The last deal we're going through right now, I think it was about $3.3 million in EBITDA, about $20 million in sales, and they got 21 offers. 21 offers the seller got to choose from. So it's
and by the way, every single offer was different.
Yes,
from the highest number to the lowest number to the structure, right?
So absolutely.
How do you make that decision? You need an expert like Cornerstone Business Services to boil that down to what are the best options for you.
And trying to vet through those buyers, because again, buyers tell you what you want to hear, and some are genuine. And then others are just playing a game. And it's hard, especially if you've only done this once, to figure out. And so that's our job as investment bankers to come in and really try to vet out who those buyers are and get to the right buyers who are going to get to close at the right price.
What do we say? We've been saying it. I've been in business 32 years now. Buyers are liars. And at the end of the day, they'll tell you what you want to hear. Yep. And at the end of the day, you don't want to get to the table and then realize, oh, what the hell just happened? This isn't what I thought it was. Then you have to make a decision. Do I walk away and start over, or do I just take it and put my tail between my legs, put my head down and walk away?
Right.
That doesn't happen if you're working with our group.
If you're ready. Okay, well, we're We could keep talking about this for hours. So here's what I'm excited about. I'm excited to watch where this goes. You put together some great marketing campaigns. You've been on YouTube shows. You've got a podcast, the book, the movie. I mean, this is
there's a lot to look at.
This is blowing up big. So I've got a two-parter, and I'm gonna go one and the other. So you don't get to ask both parts. So or answer both parts. So as you look forward the next 5 years, Scott, what are some of your biggest concerns as it relates here?
Yeah, I would say if financial advisors don't take the time to learn, educate themselves and to partner up with someone like CapEx and Cornerstone and Beacon, they're just going to stick their head in the sand and they're not going to help. They're going to do a great job of doing what they're doing now, which is providing good financial advice, but they're going to stick their head in the sand. They're not going to ask these questions soon enough. The business owner is not going to come to them and say, hey, I think I need to do this until they're tired and too late, which usually means they're not going to have time to prepare. Yep. They're not going to put a team together, and the stats are going to stay the same or increase slightly. We want to make sure we can truly change the game on this program. So that's I think that's the biggest thing, is that will they take this? Will they want to grab this and actually make this an initiative within the firm? Because if they do, they can totally make this a game changer for their firm. And I'm not just a financial advisor. I'm a financial advisor that specializes in business owners and helping them transition out of their company for top dollar. And I've got a team that can help you do that. And oh, by the way, I can manage the money and give you some different really cool ways to save taxes and some other things along the way.
Great answer.
That's a good answer, man. That's hard to follow.
That's why you're not getting the same questions. You've got your own path here. So as it relates to this program and what you're doing, as you look over the next 5 years, what excites you?
I think what excites us is the fact that this is truly a blue ocean. I've been in this business 32 years, and let's be honest, whether it's the big boys, that have the Bull and the other companies that are out there versus these boutique firms like ourselves, there is no magic bullet. Everybody has access to the same products and the same tools, so we're all trying to build the same house. There is no differentiation. There are 7,700 and some odd mutual funds. We don't, ETFs. Oh, yeah. They're all the same. Nobody has a magic bullet. This proprietary strategy and talking about $10 trillion of generational wealth, when you look at everything else that's going on in this country with Social Security, which again, the baby boomer dilemma hit it head on and people are freaking out because if you're going to trust the government to take care, when the government says, trust me, we'll take it from here, you're about to get blank, fill in the blank, right? Because I know it's a family show. Yep. But we're excited about the blue ocean because we can go out and work with these CPA firms and these attorneys that have these clients that need this help and other advisors that are willing to do the open circle and say, we can bring this to them and change the numbers. When you're talking about $8 trillion of wealth disappearing, that excites me because we're talking about generational planning and helping the next generation preserve that wealth. And it's just a tremendous opportunity from a business standpoint.
It is. You know what? Not to get too altruistic.
I knew you were going there.
It's not just, we're helping business owners. There's an opportunity to help a business owner. There's an opportunity to keep a business in business for another generation or another iteration, wherever it goes. But that means also then that there are communities, there are jobs, there are 401ks, there are kids getting braces. There are little league teams that's got the name of the business on the front.
That's right.
This is backbone of the USA type of stuff.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen, I thank you for being on the podcast. I look forward to watching and seeing how this continues to go and just continue to blow up in the positive sense of that word. For everybody that's out there, thank you for joining us. And I would ask, I've got a couple favors to ask of you. The first favor is I would love it if you would subscribe if you're on YouTube. On some of the other platforms, I didn't realize this. I say, hey, I need you to subscribe, and you may there's no subscribe button. If you're on Apple, we're on Apple. If you're on Apple, you just hit follow, and that way you are notified every time we drop a new episode of The Complete Advisor, which is a podcast dedicated to making advisors better. Thanks for joining us. Look forward to seeing you around.